friends, welcome back. My name is Amanda and I am a farmer at Alfresco Acres. I am here to kind of go over some questions to let you know a little bit more about who we are, what our practices are, our philosophies, how we farm, and things like that. I wrote down some questions that I've been asked over a few years now and figured I'd go ahead and answer them for you so that you could get a better feel of who we are and things like that. So the first question that you would typically ask anybody is, who are you? So my name is Amanda. I am 34 years old and my husband is the same age. We are first generation farmers. I did have farmers in my family a few generations back, but I did not grow up in a farm life. My grandparents were farmers, so I did spend a lot of time with them. Mostly it was with poultry, things like that. There were tractors involved, but that's kind of the driving force of why I wanted to get back into this lifestyle when I became a grown-up. So I did spend a lot of time doing that growing up, and it was a very special and important time for me. I can't say exactly for Eli what his driving factors were since he's not here. I will let him tell that if he ever decides to join me in any videos. So we are a young family. We have 2 children currently, and they're young children. That they're basically my whole world right now. Everything centers around them right now, but we are eager to include them in everything that we do farming related. People ask us sometimes, do you keep them away during butchering, or are they involved in it at all? Our oldest is only 2 years old, so he isn't part of it, but we don't keep him separate. We don't ever lie to him when it comes to where the pigs went or where the chickens are going, things like that. He knows we say that we are gonna process or butcher them. They're gonna go bye-bye and they won't be back. So he knows. I don't think he understands it yet, but he has been around while we're butchering. He hasn't asked us any questions about it yet. He's still learning to talk, but we don't ever plan to keep him out of that. I'm sure he will ask questions and I'm sure he will help us butcher. Of course, when he's old enough to make his own decisions, he can decide if he doesn't want to be part of it or not. But we want to raise him with the options of being able to do that and learning about it. What we're trying to do, because we didn't grow up in this lifestyle, we grew up pretty separate from this lifestyle of farming, which most people generally are. You don't see your food before you eat it. You aren't really taught where it comes from, how it lives, what it eats, anything like that. So I guess our main goal as a family is to retrain our minds to rethink how we see things. We learn the ins and outs from start to finish, what happens with our animals. We are meat farmers, so we want to know everything that's involved in raising them, and we want to give them the best life that they can have. If we are going to be carnivores, we want to treat our animals as humane as possible and make sure that their last day on earth is not full of stress, if at all possible. And then it's also very important to us to break that tradition that's been kind of passed down now for a little while, that fast and convenient food is the best way to go, because it really isn't. And personally, after learning how to cook from scratch, while it does take a lot more time, a lot more ingredients, there are times when it isn't more expensive and it isn't that hard to make things. It doesn't take any more time. And it actually teaches you a lot about patience, or helps you to teach your children practical life skills that they wouldn't get if you just opened a box, poured it into boiling water and stirred it and then served it to them. Pretty much that's it. We're trying to break the chain of what the world has become, because we don't really see that as anything that we want to teach our children as they age, because this is the most pivotal time in their life, when they're learning from us and seeing what we do every day. And it is very important to us to also bond with our children and teaching them to cook and teaching them what spices to use, things like that. While it may be messy, they are learning, and it is a bonding experience for us to teach them. The last thing is that we are trying to trade out both convenience and fast food with healthy options, because processed food is not very healthy for you whatsoever. Even making your own food from scratch could be unhealthy, but we're trying to teach our children and even our customers, people that we talk to about our life, we're trying to teach them healthy swaps or healthy ways to eat and live. And that's kind of who we are. We are a farming family. We are teaching our customers and friends and family, anyone who's interested, why we do what we do. It's a very big world, and farming has always been a really big part of it, but it's getting smaller and people really don't understand a lot about what farmers do. And as much as we could teach people about it, we thoroughly enjoy it whenever anybody asks us any questions about it. All right, and then the second question that we usually get asked a lot is, what do we do? What are our roles on the farm? So I can speak for myself here with saying that Eli and I have different specialties. Mine being that I raise our children. I try to teach them morals and manners it's still very new to me raising children, but my main focus is them. They're my full-time job right now, apart from the farming business. So I'm teaching them and doing everything with them, feeding them, nurturing them. I also work keeping the home. I'm a homemaker. And then I also do all of the gardening, harvesting, preserving, things of that nature. So gardening takes up a lot of my time, from seed starting in the beginning of the year, which I just started recently. And then from there, I'm repotting up the seedlings until they are ready to harden off, and then they go into the ground from there. And then there's about a 2 or 3 week grace period where I just water them every day, and that's about it. I do some pruning of the plants and making sure that they're healthy. But other than that, I get a little reprieve right there with just watering them. And then it's like, it just switches and I go right into harvesting mode, and I'm just overrun with all of the fresh vegetables and produce, and it's totally awesome, but it can be overwhelming. I try to preserve it a little bit at a time where I can. If there's anything I can't get to, I will freeze it for later, which I did with my tomatoes last year because I knew I was going to be restocking our entire pantry of canned goods for tomatoes since we ran out. So I planned on doing them all at the same time, and I had a ton of tomatoes. So I stay pretty busy between taking care of the children, the house, the farm business, emails, and things like that, doing farmers markets in the past, and then also with gardening, harvesting, preserving, canning, freezing, dehydrating, all of that stuff. And then a little bit of what Eli does is pretty much everything, but so he'll set me up tables and stuff for when I do start seeds. He sets up all the lights, all of the tables and things like that. He gets that all set up for me. He will bring feed buckets. He'll fill them up and use his muscles to take them down to the barn for me. He does all of the snow plowing and fixing of things, because if you are a farmer or homesteader, you know that there's always something that's broken. So one of my jobs is to tell him when things are broken, which is not a fun task to have to do. But I think we're used to it now. There's something always that needs to be fixed or repaired, and Eli does a really good job of researching everything, learning how to fix things. I've never met somebody that knows how to just go out there and fix something. There isn't anything that he hasn't been able to fix that I know of. And a way that we do save money is by him learning how to install things like the wood boiler for the house. He installed that with the help of his father and some friends. So he does learn how to do all of those things himself, and he does a really, really good job at it. Pretty much he fixes things. He builds things a lot. He built us a milk stanchion for when we had goats at our last home, and he built our cow pens. He built a beautiful chicken coop at our last house also, which we do plan to do here eventually, but it's not a top priority right now. We are very appreciative of him for that. What's wrong, little girl? And then a little bit about our farm where we are now. So Eli and I purchased a very old farmhouse and acreage last April. We moved here and it's quite run down. There's a lot of things that need to be renovated, fixed up, replaced and repaired. We still haven't really gotten to a lot of anything inside. So there's just a lot of things that need to be updated here. We just haven't gotten around to doing many things inside. I think the only thing we've done inside is put a new light in our dining room so that we can see better, as well as replacing the faucet in the kitchen because it was pretty old. Oh, and he also replaced the front door, which is nice because it was extremely old and not able to be used. So yeah, we replaced a few things in the house, but that's not our top priority, and we're totally fine with waiting to do that. For the most part, because we moved here in April last year, it was the beginning of when it was getting nice outside, so we spent majority of our time outside working on things, tearing out old fencing, taking out all of the trash that was just piled up everywhere, burning the wood that was rotting out. There was tons and tons of pallets that were stacked up, so we had a lot of bonfires burning those. Eli had to put in 2 big raised beds for me because we didn't have anything ready to go for gardening at all. We actually had to purchase plants last year, which was a first, and we didn't really get to have what we typically would grow. So yeah, there was projects left and right last year, but it was also amazing to live where we had an acreage and could drive the side-by-side outside and just relax with each other more and enjoy the summer. Okay, so our farm was built in 1895. I'm a massive history buff, so I made sure to kind of learn as much as I could about the history of this farm. And then there is a historic round barn that was actually built here in 1907. There was a big boom of people wanting the round barns in the early 1900s. Mostly you would see that in Illinois and Iowa. I know there was some in Michigan. I think there's less than 50 left in the state of Michigan, and one of them is right here. Our barn is extremely run down. It's pretty much deteriorated because of water damage coming through the roof, causing the top floor to buckle in one area, which is pretty sad because it's only happened over the last, I would say, 15 years or so. It's gonna be a big project. It's extremely expensive to repair something like that, especially because there aren't very many contractors that work with round barns or have the knowledge of how to repair them. It's a pretty extensive list of issues that we're working with, and I have reached out to everybody in the state of Michigan. I've had a couple people offer to volunteer to help us with it, but it's a big undertaking and it's going to take a lot of money. We're hoping to do some sort of nonprofit or just raise money with a funding website of some sort. There are tons of photographers and people that have stopped at our house every single day in the summer just to take pictures of it, or who have come up and asked if they could take pictures of it. And it can be a little hectic sometimes if the kids are sleeping, because then the dogs are barking, waking them up, which kind of sucks. Or we'll just be outside trying to relax in our pajamas and people will come up, and it's just not really, it can be a little overwhelming sometimes to have strangers show up at your house. So it's not always invited, and hopefully work something out where if photographers want to come and take pictures of it, there can be donations set up so that they can make a donation towards it, and then they can photograph it if they want to. It's a piece of history, so I totally understand that people would want to take pictures of it. But yeah, it is a beautiful barn. It's absolutely stunning. The craftsmanship that went into it for a barn that was built in 1907, just looking up at the inside of it, the woodwork is just phenomenal, and we hope that it doesn't collapse because it will be a great piece of history that's lost. And it actually wasn't my main reason of purchasing this property, which kind of surprises a lot of people, because when they see the barn, it's what everybody's interested in, or people that stop just for the barn are kind of in shock when I say that. I didn't even notice it when we looked at this property. So mainly what happened was we've been looking for a property to move our farm to for about 3 years. And then, of course, after everything in 2020 and the housing market skyrocketed and the prices of homes went up, it was just crazy. Eventually, he found a position available that he could transfer to within his company up in this area. So I started looking at homes with acreage, because we moved from 2 acres to this. And once I saw the acreage, I was practically sold. I love old farmhouses, so I was sold with that too, even though it was a huge undertaking and it's gonna be a lot of work. However, Eli and I see this as a place where we can grow old together. We can have it forever. Our family will enjoy it forever. And we can also grow our farm business here, which is totally awesome, because we barely had anything at our last property, and we do pasture raised poultry and pork. So it's very important to us to have land so that we can rest it in between moving animals on it every year, because we didn't have that at our last home. So we're super excited to finally have that this year. We did do a batch of chickens last year, and we did our turkeys as well, just a smaller amount than we usually do. And then we also raised our pigs out in the forest here, which is totally awesome because there's a little forested area within our property. And so we always plan to raise our pigs in the forest and rotate them around so that they can graze as well. And then we've also added some beef cattle. We did only get 3, and they are a Jersey cross steer, but while we know that they are a dairy breed, we have heard a lot of people say that they really like the flavoring of the meat. So we found some at a really great price here and just added a couple last summer, and we plan to grow them out and see if we like them. And we also plan on getting a small herd of our own so that we can breed them ourselves, not Jersey cross. We're still looking at the different breeds to see what we're interested in as far as what our herd is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be just one specific breed or a mix of different ones, but I personally like the Dexters. I like the size of them. They do take longer, about 24 months to grow out for meat. So that is a downfall, but I just like the sizing of the Dexters because I'm a short lady, so I think it's a little intimidating when you go out and there's a bunch of steers that are bigger than you are. But we are excited to expand, and hopefully we can continue gaining customers up in this area. We did have a really nice customer base where we used to live, which was really, really hard for us to let go of to move up here. We still have some regulars that have stuck by us and are still getting turkeys and chickens, pork, things like that, which is totally awesome. We love them so much, and they've become really good friends of ours. But it's gonna be different having to try to find customers up here. I am excited because I know that it will happen. We will find new customers, we will find new friends, and we are excited for when that does happen. We are looking into the farmers markets up here because I used to go to a Saturday market down where we used to live, and that was pretty awesome. It was really nice to get out of the house on Saturdays, to have mommy alone time for a little while, and just to get to talk to people about farming if they ever had any questions about what we did. It was just really nice, and it was nice talking to the other vendors in the market as well. I had some really great friends that I got to know that sold produce and meat, honey, all sorts of stuff. So I really encourage you to check out any of your local farmers markets because there's so many awesome people with great hearts, and they are doing a lot to improve the soil as well as animals, farms, the life that they give to their animals, and It's a beautiful thing, and I don't think enough people go to farmers markets. I'll admit I never went to a farmers market before I was a vendor at one because I didn't know, first of all, what they were exactly. I suppose it's pretty obvious when you say farmers market what's sold there, but I just grew up in a world very disassociated with what I was eating, and so I didn't buy fresh produce, and everything was at the grocery store. I do implore you to go out and go to your local farmers market. It's such a fun thing to do. There's usually live music, there's all sorts of stuff to do, there's things for the kids. It's just get out of your house and go find your local farmers market. You might not have a great time, but it gets you out of the house. And it's usually during the summer they have them outside, and they're just lovely to walk around. Okay, so next question. Why do we do what we do? So it's very, very important to us. I've said this before. It's very important to us to learn where our food comes from and to teach our children as well as our friends and customers and families, if they're interested, to find out where your food comes from. It's that simple. We try to eat whole foods. We cook from scratch. We use our own meat and our own produce. We purchase produce from friends, and we do what we do because we want to take care of our health, our family's health. We want to teach our customers and our friends how to implement what we know into their own lives. And we do it for our future generations. So our children, their generation, and beyond. We are a very small fraction of time on this earth. And while we're here, we are trying to do what we can to improve it for future generations. So we implement the rotational pasturing, where we move our animals every single day so that they don't stay in one section and compact the soil. You want to make sure that you are regenerating the soil and not making it worse for the future. There's a lot of just regular farming that you hear of where the farmers just have huge fields that they go through until they spray things, they plant things, they spray them again, and then they go through, and there's lots of tilling involved. Tilling the soil brings a lot of air into it, which kills a lot of the microorganisms that are alive in that soil, and then you have a lot of issues with soil health and getting things to grow. And then you need to just continue spraying things to make them grow and grow. And it doesn't do anything for the future of the soil. So in 100 years, how great is that soil going to be? So we use the practices that we do, pasturing and moving our animals, for soil regeneration so that it continues to stay healthy for not just our generation, but ones in the future. And we hope that they also learn, which is why we teach our children what we do, to hopefully help them to implement those things in their life if they are a farmer. So our practices include pasture raised and organic fed. Those are the two main things that we really set our hearts on. So pasture raised because of the soil regeneration, that's the biggest thing that I was just talking about. And then we also do organic fed because there is non-GMO, and then there's what's before that, which is just anything that's sprayed with pesticides. And yes, that organic does still allow certain pesticides or things to be used. You would have to go down that rabbit hole yourself, but we chose organic because that's what our heart is set on. We want our animals to have the best feed that they possibly can have. We don't want to give them the cheap nothing, bottom of the barrel milled feed that does not have any nutrients in it, because whatever they eat needs to be nutrient dense so that they can build muscle, and then we end up eating our animals. So we want our meat to be nutrient dense as well. So we pasture raise them. They're out there eating the grass, the bugs, forage, clover, all of that stuff. And then they also are supplemented with organic feed. And it's just very important to us that our animals, since we're spending so much time moving them every single day, that we also give them the best feed that we possibly can. Otherwise, why move them every single day and give them that great pasture life and then feed them crappy food? It just doesn't make sense to us. So we want to make sure that they have the nutrients that they need. It's a lot of work that our farmers do to make this organic milled mixed feed, and we want to make sure that they get everything that they need in their bodies while they're here with us. Another one of our practices is composting. That goes in with the garden. We throw all of our scraps into the compost pile, and Eli uses his tractor to rotate that, and we make sure that the compost that we use can be used where we need it for garden reasons. So the animals that we have on the farm currently, it's January 2023, we have our hens, our egg layers. We don't sell our eggs too much to the public right now. We used to have a really big customer base where we would deliver eggs once a week to 2 different cities, and we were selling about 50 dozen or so a week. But now that we moved, we had to downsize, so we only have a few hens, just enough for our use personally. And then we have a milk cow that we got around Thanksgiving, and she's confirmed bred, so we should be expecting a calf around May. And then we have our 3 steers for meat, and mostly it's kind of just getting the feel for raising them, and then we will go on to having our own herd and upsizing that a little bit more. And then our pigs, we only raise 1 batch of pigs a year. They usually get to us about March or April, and then they go in for processing around August or September. Last year we got a little bit late start to the season because we moved here, so they went in October, but they're a big part of the farm. I love the pigs. Eli does all of the feeding for them because they do get a little rambunctious and they get to 250 or so pounds. So he does all of that feeding with the pigs, but it's fun to go out there and just watch them. That's one of the things that Calhoun just loves to do. He goes out and he helps feed the pigs also, and it's something that Eli and Calhoun can do together, and they really enjoy that. And then we do turkeys once a year as well. We usually get them in July, and we have them for about 16 weeks or so, and we usually butcher them the week before Thanksgiving. And we have some awesome customers that have loved their pasture-raised turkeys. They get really big and juicy and delicious. They are also one of my favorite farm animals because they're so intelligent in certain ways. Just hearing them talk to each other is really sweet. They have a really nice call that they do. They're just a favorite for me, and it's fun to see such a big bird try to jump up on the fences and perch there. It's just, you don't really see that every day. So I think a lot of farmers really like the turkeys a lot, and I am one of those. And then I did do a pro and con list as far as farming, what we like and what we don't really like, or at least my personal views on it. So the pros that I have written down, that it slows us down. Life is so fast. It's all about what's the fastest. With technology, you get upset if something takes more than 5 seconds to load. So farming really does slow you down. You can sit out there and watch the birds scratch and take dust baths. You can sit out there and watch the pigs run around like they're dogs. Digging your hands into the soil and planting something, touching the flowers, things like that. It's really slows you down and makes you appreciate life because you see it all around you. And then, so the animals are a lot of fun. They can be a little mischievous sometimes, like when we had goats and they would chew on our clothes or try to jump on us. But overall, we really enjoy the animals and watching our children interact with them as well. Also, farm life teaches you a lot of things. There are a lot of skills that I did not have before we did this. I didn't know how to milk a cow or a goat. I didn't know how to cook with a lot of the items that we grow. So I had to learn a lot about cooking different meats and ground pork, what kinds of different meals I can make with different parts of chicken. So it's taught us a lot. We've learned how to fix things. We've learned all the different things that you could do with twine, from the bales of hay that are always just strung up somewhere. We've learned a lot. You learn, there's infinite things that you could learn on the farm, and we're so eager to see what our children pick up from that as well, because you just don't learn those things when you're living the city life. There's different things that you learn between being a city folk and country folk. So it's going to be really interesting to see what our kids do learn, and we are so excited for them to actually learn how to do things for themselves that they wouldn't have learned without living on the farm. Another thing is that it keeps our bodies young. We are always out there lifting 5-gallon buckets of feed. We are scooping manure. We are helping lift things and move things and cleaning things, throwing firewood, cutting wood, all sorts of stuff. So our bodies, while we do go through periods of not doing so much in the winter, Eli still always does, but I'll be inside most of winter. I'm just not a cold weather person, but our bodies are always moving. They don't really stop. It doesn't mean that we aren't in pain. We're in our 30s, so we are definitely feeling it more than we used to, but we are keeping our bodies moving, and I think that's really good for your health as well as you age, because sometimes people just sit on the couch all day and they don't really do much. So I really appreciate that we get to do all of these things. I might complain a little bit here and there while doing it, but it's just like working out. You aren't enjoying it in the moment, and then afterwards you feel great. Another good thing about farm life, especially when you raise meat animals for farming, we know that our animals live great lives as much as we can give them. We, as meat eaters, have that privilege to decide where we get our meat. We raise our own. We are privileged to treat these animals with respect and to give them as best a life as we can. We don't have to give them scraps, but we do because we know it makes them happy in some small way. We don't have to give them any roosting rods or anything like that, but we know that it makes them feel safe at night to get up there off of the ground away from predators. We don't need to put them in chicken tractors, but we do because we don't want them to be taken away by hawks or eagles up here. So we do these things because we care for our animals and we want them to have good lives. So one of the cons of farming is that something always needs to be fixed. There's no way around that. Something's always broken, and it's a never-ending list. So we never really have time to relax or feel like we're a step ahead. Another sad thing is whenever we lose animals on the farm, it's never easy, and it's not something you get used to. Even when I worked in the vet field before, I dealt with euthanasias on a daily basis at the ER, and you did see some very sad and crazy things. And it's no different in the farm world. Things get caught in fencing, predators come and kill your animals. There's death with babies being born, or they just die and you don't know why. There's no reason behind it. And you could lose 15 chicks in one night because a light bulb goes out in the brooder. And it can be sad when you lose the animals, but for the most part, we know that we're keeping majority of them alive, and that's what keeps us going. Another con is that it's really difficult to find somebody that you can trust to take care of your animals so that you can actually take a vacation. There's so many people I know that in the farm world, they don't take vacations because you need somebody to come twice a day to your house, and that's just impossible unless your neighbor can come and do it for you, and that's usually not the case. It's also a con that so many people don't understand what goes into raising these animals. They think that we are loaded full of money because of our pricing, and that's not the case at all. We actually don't make any money from it. It's enough money to cover feed, and then we also have our own meat out of that. So we don't make extra cash from selling our animals. It just goes towards our meat for the year. So it is an income, it's just meat. That's our income. And a lot of people think like, oh, they have to be making tons of money for selling boneless breast for $10 a pound. And that's not true, because it goes back into fixing things, repairing things, all of the things that they need, butchering costs, keeping equipment, and then also the most important thing, which is feed, because feed is so expensive, especially when you do organic. So all of that money goes right back into taking care of the animal while they were alive. Okay, so that's a little bit about us, as much as I could go into today. I hope that if you have any questions, you can let me know and I can try to answer them next time. Farming is very important to us, and we hope to continue to grow from where we are now to the future. And we are really, really excited to be living in our new home and to see all the changes that come through the years and see what stays the same. And we're really eager to start the 2023 season and to see what new friends and customers we make in this area. But yeah, check out the next video that we have. I'm going to be talking about a little bit more about what I do personally, which is the gardening, canning, preserving, child rearing, stuff like that. So keep an eye out for that video, and I will see you next time. Bye.